All right. So going ahead, let's go ahead with a couple of simple commands in Linux. Okay. So basically, you can use either any Linux operating system like Ubuntu, or you can use something like what do you say, CentOS, or any such particular operating systems. Ubuntu is one of the more simpler operating systems to use, and it's well used in the IT sector as well. And it's something which is simple to use. It doesn't have a huge footprint, but it's pretty easily accessible to pretty much anyone as such. So if you also have Mac OS installed, it would be easy for you to use something like that. So by all means, in case you have Mac OS, all you need to do is open up a terminal. Over here you see you have the terminal. You just open up a terminal, and then you have your terminal up and ready like this. Okay, so make sure you have that. So people who have Windows right now, make sure to install something known as git bash. Okay, git bash allows you to run some Linux commands over over Windows. So it makes it a little bit more simpler for you all to make use of what do you say, your own operating system, even though if it is Windows as such. So one of the reasons that we use Linux in the industry is because, one, it's open source, mostly open source, and the second thing is developers majorly work in Linux when it comes to developing most applications. We do have a chance that a lot of the applications will be accessed by Windows what do you say, users as well. But when it comes to developing them, we pretty much develop them in what do you say, Linux as such. So any particular Linux operating systems. Now, so that being said, let's just take a look at a couple of simple commands which we basically have with respect to Linux. Okay, so you might have learned it in your what do you say, in your college, during your what do you say, your bachelor's or whatever it might be, bachelor's, master's, etc. But just for the sake of what do you say, refreshing and on that, let's go through it. So I won't spend too much time on the Linux part. I'll probably give you a little bit more time on the Python part of it, because it's a little bit more interesting when it comes to you as such. Okay. Now, so the first command which I would pretty much teach you is something like Mkdir. So that's basically a make directory. So it allows you to simply create a directory from your command line. So Mkdir, say let's call a directory let's call it data, because we will be working with data later. Okay, and if you see cd data, or let's do it this way. I'll remove this directory. Okay, so you see, removing this directory, you use this command called rm-rf data. So the reason I have used, so these are basically optional arguments which you use, -rf, okay, because if I do rm data, it may or may not work depending on if I have data, some sort of files within this particular directory. So it says, for example, rm data is a directory, which means to say that it doesn't allow you to remove a directory directly. Okay, which is why we use rm-rf, which means it is recursively and forcibly remove whatever is within this particular directory. Okay, so what instead I would like to do is, let's do this mkdir basic scripting. Okay, Mkdir basic scripting, and you do ls. So ls is basically a command where you use to list out whatever directories that you have over here as such in your particular directory. And you can do ls -lrt, okay, to give it a little bit more details. It tells you what is your execution policy, read-write policy, whom does it belong to, on an ownership level, when was it created, etc. So it gives you basic information, and this is really really important information when it comes to development as such. So you can do ls -lrt a, because when you give this a, it gives you all the files, including all hidden files. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and simply create a particular file right now. Okay, so touch is a particular command which you use to which you can use to actually create a particular file without filling in the details. So if I do touch basic scripting as such, and we'll call it say data underscore script dot py, because we will be using Python scripting, so I'll call it simply as data underscore script dot py. Okay, and you see that I've created this particular file, because if I go in here, so cd basically changes directory, basic scripting, I do ls, and you see this particular file has been created. Now if I want to check the contents of this file, I can simply do cat data script, and it basically returns nothing because there's nothing in there. Okay, so what can we do? Let's pretty much put in a little bit of information in there. Okay, so vi data underscore script. Okay, so the reason I'm using vi is one of the more powerful editors which is available. Okay, and it helps you to work with a whole lot of stuff. Okay, and it's pretty, I wouldn't say it is easy to use, but once you get a hang of it, it becomes good to use as such. So as a matter of fact, a lot of people do not use vi these days because it's more of a power user sort of editor, and people go with something like what do you say, you've got stuff like you've got Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, which is a pretty good editor to use. So stuff like that is available with Visual Studio Code. You can actually install it and check it out. I do have it on my local system as well. You also have stuff like Atom. That's a pretty good editor. You can go ahead and install that as well. These are pretty much solid as such. And if you are interested, Sublime is one more editor which you could probably try out. Okay, so that being said, so coming back to our Linux commands, what are the commands that you which are there? You can actually test out as such. So pretty interesting commands which are here. So let's do this. So once you want to save something as such, okay, you do what do you say, colon wq, okay, enter, and you save that particular information in there. All right, now let's go and just check. Let's do this. So we wanted to basically do a couple of Linux commands. Okay, so one of the commands which is quite heavily used is hostname -f. So basically what it tells is regarding your particular your laptop host name as such. So every laptop which is connected, every server which is connected on the internet usually has a particular host name as such. Okay, and it comes -f basically gives you the fully qualified domain name. Okay, fully qualified domain name, and it's a quite heavily used command as such. Another important command that is available is the ifconfig. Okay, so if you do ifconfig, it basically gives you a list of items over here. Basically, it gives you what your IP is, what your IPv6 is, what are the various network network adapters, etc., which are available over here. So I've got a couple of adapters over here because I've got the Mac bridge adapter. I've got the VirtualBox adapter because I use VirtualBox. I think I should also be having one of the Docker adapters as well, Docker network adapters. So a couple of things are available here. And I've got my own local host adapters as well. Okay, so I'm not going to go into details of those particular things, but it's a pretty handy command to use. So remember ifconfig. Okay, please mute yourselves when you join in, guys. All right. So that's a pretty handy command. What else can we take a look at when it comes to this stuff? So one of the more important commands is a grep. Okay. So a grep is basically a sort of a search command which is used. Okay. So let's do something like this, and I'll put something known as gbang in Python. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grep for grep minus r Python star. Okay, and I'll tell you what it means. So it gives you this particular information. So in the same way I do bin star. Guys, please don't annotate and write anything on the screen. Okay, so you've got stuff like this. So what this particular command does is the script command allows you, this particular command which I have here specifically, it does a recursive search as such. Okay, so if I go here as well, okay, so I go one step back, cd space my dot dot, okay, and I run that command again, and it still returns me back from this particular directory. What it does is it does a recursive search of that particular word called Python in all the particular directories under this particular directory as such. Okay, it goes under this particular directory, that is basic scripting, and it searches for everything under that, and it searches for this particular word within every single file that it finds. Okay, so that is one of the more important commands which you can make use of as such. Okay, what more can we look at which might be actually of use to you all? Let's see. So I've talked about ls, I've talked about rm. Yeah, one of the more, what do you say, commonly used commands is cp. So cp is basically a copy command as such. Okay, so cp, I'll say cp data script, and I'll do to the same directory, I'll copy it into another file called data, or let's go my script. So you see cp basic scripting data underscore script.py space basic scripting my underscore script.py. So whatever is there in this particular file will be copied over to this particular file as such. So I hit enter, and let's take a look under basic scripting. What are the files? You see there is another file which is created, and let's take a look at basic scripting my script.py, and you'll see that exact same information is over here as well. Okay, so one of the more common commands which can also be used is the ps command. Okay, so basically to look at various processes which are running on your system. Okay, so yes, if I run it just like that, it'll basically give me whatever, top level processes which are already there. It'll just give me, okay, but no details as such. Okay, but instead, if I use something like ef, you will get a whole lot more. Every single process which is running in here will be thrown up. I've got like tons of processes running. If you see over here, like Google, Chrome, and who knows what. Okay, and what I do is Python. So if you see here, ps minus ef grep Python, there's something known as power line over here, which is one of the interesting tools which you use to snazz up your particular terminal as such, which I'll show you in the future as to how you can snazz up your terminal and make it more, developer-like or hacker-like and stuff like that. Is a pretty interesting one as such. So so you can see all these particular commands, and I say specifically power line. You see, I get every particular match, ps minus ef. So here you see there's a pipe. a pipe allows you to send the information caught by one command and push it into the other command as such. So this is, it takes it from here and pushes it in here. And that way, all this stuff gets filtered out and you get only what is, what is important, what is necessary to you as such. Okay. So these are a couple of things which you can, pretty much use as such. Okay. Now, coming to the more interesting stuff. Okay. What I would like to show you all is simply one of the strong powers of Python as such. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, we'll go to data script. Okay, we'll not use this particular thing, but we do have something to do. Okay, and that is to use something known as virtual env. I'll teach you this about virtual env in my upcoming workshops as such. I've used it in my previous workshop, but that's something which I will show you again as such. Okay, so I'll do this. Don't bother about it too much right now, but just look at it. Okay, so I'll do this. So hold on a second. -p, this particular interpreter, and env basic script. Okay, so this basically creates a virtual environment in Python for me. Okay, so source env basic script, then activate. Okay, so now we are inside this basic script environment where it allows me to install various dependencies. So for this particular exercise in Python, it's a pretty interesting exercise in Python. Actually, we will be using a library or a module known as requests. So this pip install command, it is going to actually install this particular request library on my within my Python Python environment as such. Okay, so if I do something known as pip freeze just to check what is installed, you see a request library has been downloaded in here. Okay, now so I'll go to data script. Okay, and so in the past few days, in the past few weeks, as such, we have all been we've all been quarantined, we've been localized, we've been isolated because of the COVID scenario as such. And for that very reason, I thought it might be a very good idea for you all to use whatever you get over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to just hold on a second. Okay, so I will share this particular thing with you guys later, as in where I got this particular thing from. As such, this is this particular link called coronavirus COVID API. It's an API which allows us to get the various statistics, various details with respect to the COVID spread as such. So I basically, you find a lot of APIs online. So what an API is basically an application programming interface. Okay, and it's one of the good things. We live in the age of data, and you are able to access these APIs where you'll be able to get various pieces of data as such. So I found a couple of public APIs which you might be interested in. People these days do a lot of interesting stuff with APIs. As a matter of fact, I've developed my own APIs for getting real estate listings in the past and doing a lot of data calculations. So in the upcoming workshop, I'll probably show you one of those as well, how to do that. Okay. So let's start with building a small COVID application for ourselves, a script for ourselves as such. So starting with the command import request, we use this library. Okay, and import OS. This is one of the other library which we are going to use. The OS library is specifically used to do OS related commands. So I'll tell you why, okay? And import JSON. Now, as I said, OS is a built-in library in Python. JSON is a built-in library in Python. OS allows you to create files, create directories, and a whole lot more as such, okay, with respect to when it comes to using Python as such. And it's a very powerful library, by the way. And JSON is a format as such. It's a very heavily used format in the industry, and it's really important that you understand what JSON is. Maybe go online and check out what JSON is in detail. You might already know about it, but regardless, we'll be able to see it. It's basically a file format where you're able to store it as a sort of like a Python dictionary, and we'll see how it is done. And the request library, because the request library is basically used to request for web related resources. Okay, web related resources. More specifically, you can go towards web application data, web, websites, and also stuff like your REST APIs as well. So let's start with the OS command, the OS library as such. So what we want to do is first os.mkdir. I want to create a separate directory called data under this particular particular directory from where we are running this particular script. Okay, so if I do ls cd basic scripting ls, and it should be in this particular level as such. So I'll do os mkdir data, and I'll run Python. Hold a second. Python data script.py. Okay, and if I do ls, you'll see that this data directory has been created. Now, the reason I created this data directory is so that I can store whatever data I have got as such. Okay, so vi data script, and if I try to run this, this is probably going to throw me an error saying that this data directory already exists. Okay, so it says file exists error, which we don't really want to happen in case we are going to run it again and again. Okay, so what we are going to do is data script. Okay, if os.path, so dot exists data. Okay, then it shouldn't do anything. But if it does not exist, so it says if not os part exists data, that means if this part does not exist, then create this particular data directory as such. Okay, we'll start with that. So Python data script. Okay, so now you don't get this error because it already knows it exists, so it's not going to do anything about it. Okay. And what we need to do is we need to use the request library now. Okay, why? It's because we need to get stuff from this particular API. So if you go to this particular website, which I'll share with you later, okay, you'll find a whole lot of information as such. We'll try like one or two of these particular things so that you get an idea, okay, and then you can play around with it later. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are first going to get information regarding this particular API, or we are going to request for this particular website. Okay, and we'll just do a simple print rect to see what is going to be stored in here, and let's just do data underscore script.py. So it just tells response 200, which is an interesting thing because it might have something. It's an object which gets returned as such. Okay, so since I've been working in this particular field for a long time, I know a whole lot of stuff with respect to requests and responses. So I'll give you a couple of tidbits as to what might be important for you. Okay, so one of these things is the status code. So let's go ahead and see what is there in the status code. So it basically tells print rec.status underscore code, because I got this request object, and within that it will have a status code. So basically it's 200 because we already saw that earlier over here when it comes to response 200. Let's do this data underscore script dot py, and it says 200. That's pretty much what we wanted, because if it gave us anything else, for example, I'll just add an a after this particular URL, and you'll see that you'll get a different code. So you see you get a 404. A 404 basically means that it's not allowed there as such. It does not exist. Okay, so what we are going to do is do a little bit of magic as such over here. It says if request.status code equals to 200, then okay, we need to print rec.text. Okay, because this request, the request object doesn't only come with the status code. It comes with more than a status code. It also contains what is known as a text object. Okay, so we'll just save this information and run this information and see what we get in here. You see, you get a ton of data in here. This is the ton of data which we are actually interested in. Okay, and it's a really interesting piece of data, because if you guys actually have worked with Python, you'll see that it looks like a particular dictionary data. Okay, but when we requested for this data, we requested for textual data. Okay, so what we will do is we'll just do a little bit of magic again. So print. Okay, now so there are two different commands which you can, not commands, two different functions you can use when it comes to JSON over here. Okay, one is JSON dot comes, and the other one is JSON dot loads. Okay, so JSON dot loads converts a dictionary like, what do you say, text dictionary like text object into a particular dictionary as such. So rec.text. Okay, and it will just write that same information back to you, because this time it's going to write it as a dictionary. Okay, so it's basically converted it into a dictionary and it's given it to you. How do I test it? It's by doing this. So well, let's put it like this. Data is equal to so and so, and data.keys, because I have converted this into a dictionary. Okay, I can actually access something known as keys. Okay, so it'll have a list of keys in there with respect to this particular data. So Python data underscore script py. So you see there are a couple of what do you say, keys in here which you can actually make use of. Okay, so you can see country root, country status, country live root, and a whole lot of other stuff in here. Okay, so they're basically pointing to various things over here which you can explore. But so I'll probably want to stop here right now. Okay, because I think it's pretty much okay for us to stop at this particular point, so that I can let you all explore further with respect to this. So hold on a second, guys.